This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, I'll call the meeting for February 18th, 2025 of the Council on Aging to order. And I'll do a roll call. Tom?
Here.
Patrick? Leslie?
Here.
Catherine?
Here.
Crystal?
Here.
Stan's not here. Marie? Here. Excused absence. Myself. All righty, we'll go ahead and move to the minutes. And thank you, Leslie, for getting these minutes out in such a timely manner. And do we have any changes or additions, questions on the minutes? Okay, let's take a motion to approve the minutes. Marie approves the minutes. Second.
So you need somebody besides me has to second the
I'll
motion.
second it. Okay, Catherine, sorry. Marie moved the motion and Catherine seconded to accept the minutes. All in approval, please raise your hand.
Aye.
So there are no abstentions. The minutes are approved. Okay, I don't think we have anyone for public speak.
Right.
Patrick is not here to go over the Highland Valley report.
Right.
So we will move to the director's
Okay.
report.
All right. So first I want to announce that we hired our activity coordinator finally to work with our program team. Dawn Grayson Moore is still here. She doesn't mean we've replaced her. She's the program manager. His name is Ian McLaren. He's an Easthampton resident and is very excited and jumping right in, and he's in his second week. So that'll be great. And let's see. So I'm going to share my screen and, oh, I have one other staffing thing I can update you on. We had our fiscal year 2026 meeting with the mayor and the auditor. The next step is to meet with the finance committee. I'll send you folks, or I'll send Kathy the date and time for the human services meeting with finance committee, which is when we present. It's good to bring one other person from the board. It's a pretty full room otherwise, you know, but one's enough to come and be in support. And the presentation is all prepared for them. I asked the mayor, now that we have one outreach worker, as Louise referred to last time, Louise Jacob, board member, is that going to, she was saying it's going to impact the Council on Aging. So my question is, will it impact the Council on Aging? I don't know yet. We do have another Shine counselor in training beginning in April who will be a volunteer who's an Easthampton resident. And this will be our first year. Let's see, we'll finish what, July, I think, since Linda retired. I can't remember when she retired, the outreach worker assistant. So after a year, we'll be able to see what were the numbers. The numbers are a little hard to compare year over year because the way Brendan's administration calculate the numbers is a little bit different than the way I calculate the numbers. So our numbers might be lower, but the mayor and I discussed, especially if there are more needs that people have for public benefits, if there are problems with the economy that lead people's fixed income to be less and less able to cover all their expenses. Many people live on $15,000 a year or less. So would we have a rush on more appointments needed, more complex problems? What would we do? And she said, it's like the police department, you know, if there's more numbers, got to ask for more staff. So it doesn't mean we can never ask for more outreach staff again.
When you said question was, how would it affect the Council on Aging by having this additional position?
Would it,
Would it affect us how?
I was posing, will it affect us to only have one outreach worker instead of one and almost a half outreach workers?
Okay.
We don't know. There weren't enough appointments before, which is why we did what we did. It's not to say that there won't be so many appointments and so much complexity. I mean, already people do come in and it's more work than for an hour. And I always say to the outreach worker, it's like when you go to the bank and you could only have 3 transactions.
Right.
If you've got 3 or 4 complex transactions, make another appointment, come back, let her have a lunch break. You know what I mean? So, because right now it seems as though the only time that is really difficult is the open enrollment. And this year was especially difficult because things changed. So everybody had to adjust their plans. It will having another shine worker during that time help? Yes. So we'll come back and then we'll, before the budget season of FY27, next winter, we'll look at the numbers. I can bring all the numbers here and we can talk about it and really go through, do we need more help?
So Cindy, this finance meeting is all human services, not just Council on Aging.
Mhm.
That's why you're saying it's a big group.
It's public safety and human services typically. I don't know if that's what they're doing this year.
And my understanding is that I don't know about the finance committee, but I know the full council, they can't cut the mayor's proposed budget. They can only, I don't know what they can't cut it. I know that. No, I'm sorry. They can only cut it. They can't increase it. So for some reason they said, we think the Council on Aging is getting too big of a hit on this budget. They could vote to cut, I think. I'm not sure now, but I know the city council is limited in what they can do to the mayor's budget.
Mhm.
I don't believe they can increase it. So if somebody was making a great case for more money, the case has to be made with the mayor before she puts the budget to. So while these meetings need the finance committee's approval,
Mhm.
it's almost a rubber stamp in one sense because I don't think they can alter the mayor's budget. I think
Okay.
go for the gold.
So we already had our meeting and I think it went well. And, we have an administration that really cares about older adults and their needs and the Council on Aging. And so, I think we're bringing a very, clean and clear budget. So if the state has to reduce the money we're already getting from the state formula grant in this fiscal year, that's one thing. We don't know yet. And then if the state next January reduces what we would be getting next fiscal year, and there's a hole in the budget, then we would talk with the administration and we would probably be going to city council for help because there's still a lot of staffing for next year, there's $36,000 worth of staffing on that $70,000+ grant.
Right.
So if they really cut that grant, it would impact us. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about staffing and about next year's budget. It's premature. We don't show you what we went to the mayor with because her budget's not ready yet, but you'll see it as we get toward the spring. Then you'll see the mayor's budget and our budget will be in there. But for anybody who wants to see, we always publish like a mini highlights 1-pager. That's on our website now under the annual report section. And also the state has not yet asked us for our annual report. They're asking us late. So that's not up there yet. So you're still just going to see fiscal year 2023 up there. but you'll see our little highlights thing for this year on there. So let me share my screen and then I can get to the, a little update for the first 6 months of the year. Share. And let me see if I can make this as big as possible. This might be as big as it gets. Let me see. Are there any options in Google Meet to make it
What's that plus sign down there at the bottom?
bigger? The plus sign at the bottom?
See the blue one
Oh,
right from where you are? You were just way on the right, but see that blue plus sign? Right there, right down. Right
that,
there, yeah.
that's the sharing symbol. That's an up arrow for those folks with
Oh, did I learn? Okay.
tired eyes.
So now try full screen.
That's a little better.
Yeah.
So, and then for anybody who has trouble seeing this, I can work with you so you can see this later. So what we're looking at is, can I make it even bigger? I'm so sorry. I would have,
Looks pretty good.
so
It's decent.
what we're looking at is that in the past, what you would see, let me go to the next tab. Oh, I can only, sorry, anybody who's watching this from home, because I can't manipulate things without exiting full screen because I got to go back here. Okay, so here's where I can get us bigger. Zoom. Okay, so now let me see what you all are seeing. Okay, I think that's bigger. So what you would see in the past is you would see that expense control report that you've all seen a million times, which is just what, which is, let me go down in the view. So this is the first 6 months of the city funding. And the city funding is just under $275,000 for staffing, $1,300 for what they call purchase of services, which is like anything the city funds that isn't staffing, basically. And then there's the $9,800 the ad hoc building committee is using for UMass. So that represents a total of almost $286,000 of city funding for this budget. All right. So now we're going to go back. So what I did, let me embiggen it again.
That'll work.
I think it's a Simpsons word. So what I did for the first time was I joined up all of our budget items and all of our expenses in one budget to make it easier and more understandable for outsiders. And then there's a primary funding source, which if it says general fund, that's the city funding I was talking about. If it doesn't cost us anything, but it's like in kind, there's that. The overlay account means it's senior tax work off. AGE formula is the old Executive Office of Elder Affairs. Their abbreviation is now AGE. That's the formula grant. So I just want to, and let me just show you. All right, let's go to the bottom. So subtotal of personnel, just over 303,000. It's a little bit more because remember there's $24,000 in there from the formula grant. Okay, to help pay for 2 positions. Next year, it's $36,000 to help pay for 3 positions. We're still working off, because Linda left, the outreach worker left, we're still working off the money that we have left from her, so we didn't have to dip into the formula grant to pay Ian. All right, so, and a project is to calculate exactly what?
Can you go back up to, I'm just curious, I don't quite understand. I see the breakdown, full-time supervisory, full-time permanent, but what's the salaries line?
That's me. They have some weird wording here. I'm salaries,
So
the
yeah, okay.
program manager and the outreach coordinator are in full-time supervisory.
Okay,
And then full-time permanent are the B grade positions, the clerk and the principal clerk, and the activity coordinator. And part-time clerical, sorry, is the office aide, morning office aide.
okay.
Part-time permanent, that's the old Linda position, which is now gone. And then the part-time van drivers, okay? And so then we have below the personnel line are all of our other expenses. Oopsie. So where it says professional services, I've divided that up here in detail. But where you see what we've expended in the first 6 months, you don't have this detail, just says professional services, okay? And then we have just a few other things going on here. And I'm just showing you what all this looks like. Now, if you want to look at what we have spent to date, I'll show you that in a minute, but I also want to show you what does this look like proportionally. So proportionally, you can see staffing is the light blue. So over 78% of the Council on Aging's budget is for staffing. The next biggest category is professional services, which is instructors or a company that comes in to do some work for us, that kind of thing. It's almost 12%. So people, the Council on Aging is made up of people. And then let's look at what we have spent to date.
Just for a point of clarification, that's
Yeah.
probably the same with every department in any municipality. If you look at the schools, the biggest part of the budget is payroll. Look at DPW, police, fire, it's payroll. So that's not unique to us, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so so the parts in green here are what we're looking at. Way over here. If you remember the parking lot project and the signs, we spent another $1,000 of that, the capital stabilization funds that were appropriated for our department on that project, but that's FY24 money, so that's not included in what we're talking about over here. So if you recall, I was just saying all our staffing unified is just over $303,000 for the year. We've expended just over $133,000 of that. I think that and we still have to tap the formula grant. The big change, you may not remember this, but last year for the first time ever, we prepaid the city that it was like $27,000 for what we would be taking from the formula grant. What didn't work about that was that then when we didn't need all the funds for staffing, those formula grant funds went through the city and then to free cash. So the auditor and I are going back to the old method where we will bill the formula grant as we go along. So we've gone back to doing that.
So basically went to the city. What they didn't spend.
Certain staffing monies went to the city, but hey, we all benefit from free cash at one point or another. So, so that's the staffing. So we're on track, because if you go back and look at our expense control, if you look at the percentages all the way at the very end, the very right column, you can see, so if you use me as a guide, 47.89% spent down by the end of December. So that's where we should be, because it doesn't matter how much I work, just get paid. So if you look at the 60.97, just under that, it's too high only because we haven't started billing the formula grant yet. So week by week, the city's paying more of a proportion of the wages than they would be, but it'll get evened up at the end.
Cindy, could you just scroll down so we could see what the total is?
Yeah.
Because obviously it's 275 is the total, or
So if you look at the year-to-date adjusted budget, 285,710.08 is what Hadel put in there in December. I have to go back and look and make sure that that's the current adjusted budget, because some things changed.
So we're going from 285 to.
So, and then you can see that what the available balance we have left is 142
Right.
as of the end of December.
But on your new document, what was the total proposed budget?
well, hang on just a sec. So we're 46.62% spent down for city funding for the first 6 months. And 48.36 spent down for, percent for staffing. So we're good. And I ran the numbers on the van drivers. That's not set in stone every week. We kind of go by feel, and it's unbelievable. But our principal clerk is right on the nose, just right on the nose with how much, I mean, I don't know how it's happening. I think the biggest change we made after the pandemic was we brought the last appointment time back to 1:30 out of town, 2 p.m. in town. Some of those appointments are 2-3 hours, so we're still out there till 4 or 4:30, but not most days. And that really constrained transportation just enough to keep us on track and not going over budget and having to dip into the van account to pay people. And it was a challenge, you know, that we really set. So we're doing really good there. And then to go back to here, so answer to your question, Tom, what we've spent. So we've spent the 132,789 city, which Hadel had there, and then over here the formula grant. That's just we paid a senior tax work off a little bit of money to do some work for us. So that's where we're at with that. Now, professional services, you can see that I budgeted, all told, every possible category of professional services, $46,000 about, and we've only spent just over 18, but we've got some big bills coming due. Like that doesn't count the 9,800 to pay UMass, you know, so we will use a lot of it. Will we use it all? We don't have to, because remember, we're operating with a 10-year formula grant that we're in the middle of, and we don't have to spend it down every year or spend down every category. We do have a new expense we didn't budget for, which is, I'll tell you about later. Tickets, so many tickets have been donated to us, like UMass Fine Arts. We're under budget on paying for tickets for trips. We're really got a very creative team there that's getting people out on trips. Dues and training, I over budgeted because with new staff, I wasn't sure how much training we would need to pay for, but we really haven't. Some of the training we've taken is really cheap. I had budgeted, you may remember, $5,000 to replace the lounge chairs that are really awful, and 5,000 won't even cut it for 6 chairs. So I think we should do it another way. Each chair is probably going to be well over $2,000 when all is said and done, like with delivery and assembly or whatever. So I don't think we should be using the formula grant to buy new lounge chairs. The last time we bought furniture was through an earmark. So I'm really not sure what to do about it. We could tap the gift account, you know, where people have given bequests and gifts, but let's not, you know, I'm just going over things now. Just put the bee in your bonnet. Let's think on this. Supplies and small equipment. That is just such a moving target every year, depending on like, what do we need? And, you know, what are we going to cover? What is DPW or IT going to cover? So I budgeted a cushion in there. The funding for that primarily comes out of the donations people make for classes and the fitness gym. And so we've spent about 4,000 there. Postage, there's going to be a postage bill, but I haven't gotten it. Hasn't been put through yet. Building and equipment repair, that's city funds, and we will spend all of that. We just, you know, we go back and forth between, are we paying for this bill? Is DPW paying for that bill? But there are always things to fix at the building. And in-state travel we'll probably send back because we have been utilizing city vehicles only. And then in-state travel, that is folks like Marie who are doing the volunteer rides. That's from the Highland Valley. You can see up here, this gives you the detail on where the what the source was of revenue. And so then where did we bill to? And so that's the Highland Valley funds that we have left over. I don't know why it's less than I thought it would be, but because we're certainly doing a lot of rides. Maybe a lot of the rides are close to home. All right, so those are our expenses. Let me check the time. Those are our expenses for the first 2 quarters. And in the future, what I'm going to do is take this thing, which kind of looks like our city template, and make a column in there so that I can put what we've expended in there. We can talk about revenue another time. I talked with the board officers before this meeting. What should we focus on in this meeting? So we can certainly talk about revenue in another time, because that's like a whole other conversation. You know, in terms of what accounts is the funding going into and coming from? How much revenue have we deposited so far, and maybe theories about why is it more, why is it less, how does it look, how healthy are the accounts, and what do we think? We'll do that at the end. I think we've done that in the summer or the fall, so we will do that. For example, let me stop sharing my screen. So let me just give you an example of a possible conversation we could have here. We changed our rules about the gym. You used to have to pay for a year. Then when I came on board, I let people pay in installments. It was a little too complicated though. Then what we decided to do is we had so many people coming to us saying, I really don't want to do a whole year. Could I just do a few months? And we changed our policy to say yes. But from what I've gathered so far, I think it's hurting us. If you're listening to this doesn't mean we're going to get rid of that, but it does mean we're going to think about it. Because every time that we take $25 instead of $75, over years and years, it's going to affect us so much. And Crystal probably understands this, that then we won't have the money to buy a replacement treadmill or a replacement bike or whatnot. And that goes into the same account that all the class donations go into, that we use for supplies and art supplies and office supplies and refreshments and everything else. And I've noticed that it's lower this year. So
I lost you there. What, if somebody's not paying for a
full year and they're just paying for like a quarter of the year,
right,
or a third of the year, and it's $25, they're not coming back necessarily and ponying up $25 every 4 months. They're done for the year.
so they're only using it for a quarter instead of a full year.
They're only paying us for a quarter.
But they could be using it for the full year.
No, they're not
No.
using it for the full year. Their membership would run out. The point is that when we required everybody to have a year membership, we brought in more revenue from the fitness gym. And I think that long-term, that is going to hurt us to the point. I mean, we did this because we're trying to be a service and not a gym. But we rely on those funds to replace that equipment that costs like $4,000 to $6,000 a piece.
But in a sense, we were charging people for something they weren't using.
No, well, we don't know if they were using it or not. I mean, we could look at that, but
What if you charge like 6 months, $50, or a full year at 75?
these are things we could do.
Yeah.
And that's, I think
We can come back to
the
it.
point is,
Yeah.
those are the kind of conversations I like to have here, because then we get more input.
Right.
But first I have to look at the statistics, because it could be that maybe we're doing less expensive classes. And, you know, so I need to look at it and then go over it with the staff and then bring a prepared report to you. So that's that.
To move on.
Yeah.
Are you good with?
I'm good with that.
Any other questions right now?
Yeah, I had a question of what these $2,000 chairs look like.
Oh, the kind of chair we're talking about is, so you know when you go in a doctor's office and there's some kind of club type chair, you know, not a chair, but like a club chair.
Yeah.
Those are uncomfortable to sit and knit in for like 2-3 hours. So what we're talking about is something between that and your easy chair at home. I mean, Crystal might be able to speak to this, but there are furniture companies that specialize in like, it's a lounge chair.
Yeah.
So it's not a waiting room chair and it's not your living room chair,
Okay.
but it's commercially built. What we have now are scary.
So I'm assuming, and I know it could be a long way off, but I'm assuming as we look at purchases of furniture and equipment, we're keeping in mind what could be coming with a potential new building. And making sure that it can be transferred over for use, which it sounds like these could. But also, as we get closer, there are furniture and fixtures that could be included in the total package of a new building, which you wouldn't have to scrimp and save for now. But if we were, in a sense, if we were, what's the word I want? If we were budgeting for a $20 million building, you know, 5 million of that might be furniture and fixtures. I'm exaggerating the numbers, but you know what I mean. So you wouldn't have to scrimp and save today. It could be part, if we're closer to that. You know,
That's interesting.
it's gotta be on a track, because both new schools, every single thing in that school is brand new, and it came out of that overall budget.
Right.
I mean, we didn't reuse desks, we didn't reuse anything.
Well, there is a risk that if we bought expensive items, that they really just wouldn't even work in a new lounge. Like a new lounge might be so efficiently designed that then you have to have a shape of chair that works in there. And if we made a mistake, or not a mistake, but if we bought chairs that sort of like floofed out this way and this way,
Right.
but maybe the whole room only works if they're more like that. I just don't know. But I do know that we need different chairs, because our chairs I watch people get up and down from them and I am afraid.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I take them away without having a replacement and I just put a regular seat there of what we already have, people are going to be really unhappy.
Of course, is there, and believe me, you guys know better than we do or I do, but is there a cheaper model you could buy to get by until 5 years down the road, or whatever, 3 years down the road, we have a new center? Because I'm 98% sure that in a budget for a new building, it's going to include furniture and fixtures.
Yeah. Well, we can get some more advice also. We have some advice, we get more advice. So,
Good.
yes. Okay.
All righty, thank you, Cindy. We'll move on to old business ad hoc building committee update. Leslie?
So briefly, the ad hoc building committee met with the mayor on January 28th, and she had some questions for the group. For example, you know, should land be purchased, you know, at the time, you know, in advance, in preparation? We were like, no. You know, and a few other questions. But I think the biggest thing that was discussed there was asking the mayor, or strongly encouraging the mayor, to form a building committee to start the process moving forward. And she agreed that that was actually the next step that she wanted to take. So I'm sure at this point she's getting things together. She was going to forward the report to city council, I believe, so they could see it. And, you know, things should start to move along. So
I would just add I forgot to say this at the meeting. I should have said it in front of your boss, but obviously thanks to you for, I'm assuming you put that together the way it was put together. And the mayor was highly complimentary of that. She basically said what we handed her was almost the RFP that could go out to potential bidders. It was so comprehensive. So thanks for putting that together.
Well, really I mean, Leslie worked very hard on it.
Thanks,
Kathy
Leslie.
worked on it.
Thanks, Kathy.
You did your part.
Right, but I mean, putting it together in the format that it was, my
Mhm.
part, for me personally, in our subcommittee, I gave you the information, but you formatted it in a way that made it look like a very professional report.
Thank
And
you.
and she was very impressed, very impressed.
Thank you. And UMass is part of the report. They were so responsive, all of our questions and concerns they incorporated. And they themselves thought the report, including theirs, you know, the whole thing seemed really good compared to other communities that were, we were doing a good job. So that's excellent. And it's almost a luxury that we got to do this for the last year, because a lot of building committees have to start from scratch and ours will not. And there's also a budget that I don't know how much yet, that will be in the FY26 proposal, the city council, for that building committee to do some work.
If I recall, Leslie, did she commit to having a building committee in place by April 1st?
So,
I think she did.
Yeah.
because any day if you have a request for people.
Yep.
So that's basically
Yeah.
what, if you recall from the beginning, she was committed to getting this project to a point where a future administration couldn't derail it in one sense. I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but you know what I mean. I think once that full building committee is established, I think it's on autopilot.
It's all forward momentum.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it won't take a long time, but it's a process. You start with a ball rolling down the hill.
Thank you, Leslie. And Tom, the board residency requirement, thank you for sending in advance the changes that were made to the council on aging in our bylaws.
They're reading my.
Okay. You're good.
So this was, the final approval required the mayor, and the mayor did approve it on the 28th of January. So this is now a city ordinance that governs our membership criteria and some of the operation of the council, but obviously it does not supersede or take the place of our bylaws. The most important part we tried to change here, or did get changed, was the residency requirement. And what changed was that it says residents of the city or persons working in the city. So someone could be working here, but live in Amherst, and they could be a member of this board. It also said, the former one had said that the chairperson would be designated from time to time by the mayor. In my 30-something years on this group, the mayor's never selected that got changed to be selected by the board. And then the only other restriction that they decided, that part D that was on there that they put in place, which I was fine with, they were concerned that at some point in time, the entire board could be non-residents. So they put that limitation in there that says 1/3 of the board membership can be made up of Easthampton residents, 1/3. So, and that, to me, that will be a format that they will use throughout the city. So if there's a 3-member board, 1/3 would be 1. In our case, it's 3. So if Cindy or someone had a phenomenal add to the board, we could get up to 3 people if we so choose that were non-residents. And then the other language was language we all had approved about the mission of the council. So all of this is everything we saw in advance. It just walks its way through the ordinance subcommittee, the full council, and then the mayor. And so this is now the law of the land.
Thank you.
Thank you for your persistency. It was a long road, but you stayed with
I
it.
didn't
So
care for those restrictions, so we're gone now.
it's great work, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board membership, Kathy, this is regarding, what's his name, right? Board member Stan Diamond, who has missed now today, makes it 4 meetings in a row. I have written him, sent 3 email correspondences since January 21st and have not heard anything from him. The last correspondence I sent out last week was requesting his resignation from the board, and still have not heard anything from him. So we were talking briefly before the meeting about what are our next steps. And I didn't see in the bylaws where it really says specifically that we can dismiss someone, but that's something we need to take a look at in the future. But the next step would be that I could send him a letter saying thank you for your service, and as of this date, you are, I'll think in right language, dismissed from the board.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
His absence isn't health related, is it? That we are aware of?
We haven't heard from him, so
I would just think over a period of 4 months, there could be some sort of communication that would tell us that.
mhm.
Or if there was some other reason that he absolutely couldn't attend, it just doesn't seem like somebody would be totally incapacitated for 4 months and not be able to communicate with us, or someone would, but because now it's been by email.
Right. And if his email had changed, like Tom mentioned earlier, I would have received an email coming back that email is no longer working or ejected it.
So, to Kathy's point, the bylaws, unfortunately, the way they're worded, our bylaws say that when a person misses 3 meetings without notice, we can ask for their resignation. And that's as far as it goes after rereading it. It doesn't say what the next step was. So I recommended that we might, if Barbara happens to be in on our way out, just confirm that we could. I don't want to step on a landmine here, but could we just send Stan an email that says, thank you for your service. You're no longer a member of the Council on Aging Board, or you, whatever, just dismiss him in that sense. Could we technically do that?
Cindy?
Or does it mean the board votes to send a letter to the mayor, and then a letter is written that says, Mayor, we recommend that you remove this board member as they've violated the bylaws?
Yeah, that's why I think it would help if Barbara would tell us that one way or the other.
Do you want to take a vote now in case that is the method?
I think we take a vote either way and just say that we voted to request his removal from the board, thank him for his years of service, and notify him that he's no longer a member of the board. I would make that in the form of a motion.
Second. Oh, you didn't.
No, you're good.
Yeah, that's good. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? And I will check with Barbara.
Um,
Just get her opinion.
Oh, you gotta have the vote.
Yes, I know. I was just. What's my comment of part of the discussion?
Sorry.
Don't worry.
Yes, as part of the, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to throw in that we'll do that with the green light from the city clerk. Unless she gives us any other direction. But that was a good point. Maybe we could have the mayor do something if it's
She
required.
appoints them.
Right.
So then does your motion need to be changed so that it includes going to the clerk and then going to the mayor? Because then you would have to come back and discuss this in March.
So change my motion, Leslie, that says, I move that we send Stan a letter removing him from the board with
Contingent upon the mayor's.
contingent upon the
City clerk.
appropriate protocol from the city. Contingent on the appropriate protocol from the city.
Is that Leslie?
Yep, got it.
Okay, with that amended
Are you- yeah.
motion, Catherine?
Second.
And it's been seconded. The amendment has been seconded.
Not to say it again because I couldn't.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand, please.
I
Aye.
still did too.
Okay. So, passed unanimously. Thank you all. We'll move to new business. Check our time here. Executive Office of Elder Affairs. Cindy. Is that-
Okay. I will try to run through this as quickly as I can because I have to leave a few minutes early, but in January, Governor Healy officially signed legislation to formally change the name from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs to the Executive Office of Aging and Independence. There was a lot of surveys and discussion about how the former name had some connotation among the public and professionals alike, sort of a negative connotation akin to aging and ageism. Okay, so surveys were done for, 3 years, and what they found out that people weren't, one, aware that the office existed in the first place. Those who were aware weren't fully informed about what services that office provided. to the like 1.7 million older adults in the Commonwealth. And so they reestablished this name again to better reflect sort of the values of older adults and kind of reflect also the normalcy of the aging process. They changed their position statement slightly, and I'm just going to read that. This is the customer-facing position statement, that the Executive Office of Aging Independence works with a network of dedicated partners who share the agency's commitment to supporting and empowering Massachusetts adults to age purposefully and independently in the communities of their choice. So the website sort of reflects all of the different resources that support providers and citizens in the Commonwealth. She's just under 20, some of which include like housing support options, money management programs, adult protective services, and so on and so forth. It also includes, obviously, the network of Council on Aging. But in addition to that, there's some verbiage that has changed as well. And I feel like we should mention this because we use these terms all the time in meetings and also at the Council on Aging itself, that we should avoid using phrases such as elders, elderly, and senior citizens. Instead, to use older adults, aging adults, or adults age 60 plus, or in our case, 55 plus, that type of thing. But the mission and the services sort of remain the same as before, and it's just to sort of update and modernize and better inform the public and providers of what this Executive Office of Aging and Independence can do for the citizens of the Commonwealth.
Great.
Thank you for summarizing that for us. Reading that document. Bringing it.
Sure. And all of that, again, if you want to visit the website, you will see kind of how modernized it is and accessible, because accessibility was a key factor. I just wanted to mention a side note as the legislative liaison that there was an additional $7.5 million that we're hoping to request, and it is for the Healthy Incentives Program, which supports local farm shares and that kind of thing. And so I sent a letter as a private citizen to Speaker Mariano, Chair Mickelwitz, Senator Velez, Representative Gomez, to bring line item 4400-1004 to their attention. So,
Right, because they recently cut. So if you're a senior and you're a single person, you were getting $40 a month on top of your food stamps to buy local produce at the winter farmer's market or, wherever in the summer. And so that was cut $20. And then I don't know if in next year's budget, how much there is for it, but this must be to either restore that or offer it to more people. I don't know, but it benefits farmers and SNAP recipients.
One of the things when you mentioned on the financial piece of this, I know from time to time you had someone come in and make presentations about, and I'm not going to use the right terminology, about elder abuse when it comes to financial stuff. The proliferation of scams right now is unbelievable, and stuff that I could almost fall for. When they tell you that you've got an unpaid hole, that's the new one right now.
Oh, yes.
And if you go on, which I didn't, because I know I don't have, it's all automatic for me. If you go on and go through it, I guarantee you somewhere they're looking for an account number or bank information that they can, and you give them the okay to charge your account $2.40, and then they wipe out your account.
Right.
So the toll one, there's one out there now about computers. Some protection on your computer is about to expire. And you think you have it, so you go out and you go down the rabbit hole, before you know it, they're looking for an account number.
It's on my computer right now.
So,
Froze my screen.
yeah, so there's a bunch of them. I just personal anecdotal, I clicked on something on my computer months ago. Thankfully, my son's a computer nut, and it froze it, and it said something, and it had to notify whoever it was. So I called them, and I was okay to the point when they said, "You do have to pay for this. Could you get some Walmart gift cards?"
Oh, right. Who would fall for that? People do.
End of that call, but it sounded so real.
Yes.
McAfee, I think it was. It sounded so real all the way up till they asked for the cards, and
I
so.
can answer that. So that education can come through the GA, but it can also come through the, through law enforcement, and, if we want, we can put together some kind of talk around it, although the banks and the DA's office and others do offer talks about it, like at least once a year. So I think Easthampton Savings Bank was going to do one for the Council on Aging. I don't know what happened to that.
I thought they did it
Did
in
it last fall,
November.
I thought, maybe.
Did they? Yeah.
Maybe it's a good thing to have them repeated.
Yeah,
I mean,
there was one that I was on a panel for years ago that was actually like a regional thing, and it was held at the log cabin. The place was packed. They had Hamden and Hampshire County DAs on the panel, and bankers and others. And again, it was a regional thing where you had like 4 or 5 COAs that were part of it. So, but it's just, I gotta believe there's seniors out there who are getting scammed and they don't report it because they're embarrassed.
That's true. Well, the last item on the agenda, Cindy, was certification strategic planning. Do you
So
want to say a
I
few
can do
minutes
something
about
really
that?
quick.
And then we can come back if we need to.
Right. So, so Dawn signed up as program manager to get certified by Mass Councils on Aging. As a program manager, I signed up to get certified as a director, which just means that we can use their resources that we're already paying for as members to do some planning work and put together a portfolio of pieces that will make us better. And so, segueing from what Marie was talking about the mission of AGE, which is the abbreviation for that state agency, we as a board could contribute to that certification process by participating in looking at our mission, looking at our, vision, looking at our, being part of working on a strategic plan. I'm going to form like a steering committee to do the strategic plan work. It has to be done by the end of August and submitted in September, and we don't have much time. And so the way I'm going to handle this is that coming from the Council on Aging staff will be this effort to get all the pieces done, and board members and other community members and participants will be invited to be part of it. And so I will ask members of this board if they want to get involved and help steer how it should go, because every part of it needs almost every part needs community input. Some of it we can use the work we just did with UMass, for example, but not all. And then lastly, we would have activities so that the community can give input, whether it's a focus group or a board meeting or so on. So this group, the steering committee, would help me plan these activities. And so what I want to propose is under, I guess, new business, sometime between April and June, that we have at least one board meeting where we do an activity around the mission, the vision, and then another one where we talk about strategic plan. Obviously, some of it's already practically written for us because a big chunk of the strategic plan is getting a new building. The plan is for 1 to 3 years. So old types of strategic planning was 3 to 5 years. Modern type of strategic planning is to be more nimble, and use it more. So like 1 to 3 years. So, so the new building, and then of course the the staffing thing that we keep talking about is, do we have the right amount of staff, the right type of staff? How's it going? That piece. But we could come up with some other things that nothing is set in stone, you know, about what are we doing as a council on aging and what else do we want to do? So what I'm basically, do I have the board's blessing to ask one or more of you to join the steering committee and to help plan these activities and be a part of this is what I'm asking.
Sure. I think
Makes
so.
sense. And I can send more information about what this is, like what are all the pieces that we have to do, of which there are many. And oh, and also there's a seminar that's part of it. So the statewide group, Mass Council on Aging, they have a consultant that's guiding us through this process. We don't have our own consultant, but we will need to bring in somebody from outside pro bono or for pay to facilitate any community sessions we have. Because otherwise it would be too biased to have a staff or board member lead the sessions. So I also welcome if somebody knows somebody who would be a good facilitator. Similar to like when the library was doing the state grant to fix up the annex, they had to do sessions and they brought in an outside person. So that is my report on that. And we could come back to it next time.
Yeah.
Since the meeting is basically out of time.
Right.
1 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Tom made the motion to adjourn. Catherine seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting has been adjourned.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.